Hello and welcome to the Sensual Being podcast with myself, your host, Jolene Whiting. I have been a pole dance teacher for nearly 20 years. I'm also a yoga instructor, and my favourite pastimes are connecting to my own sensuality, connecting with the world, and connecting with animals as well. In this podcast, you'll find new and inventive ways of how you see yourself, connecting yourself with others, and also how you see and view the world around you. In this episode today, we are going to be looking at imposter syndrome and why you might be feeling it at times, and also ways of getting you out of your comfort zone. Welcome back, you sensual being. Thank you for joining me again today, and we can have a chat. I would like to start off talking about imposter syndrome and how I feel labeling things can have quite a negative impact in ways. So the opposite of this is also true. So take from it what fits with you, okay? So imposter syndrome. Now, this is something, if you don't know what it is, imposter syndrome, it makes you feel like if you're doing something and you feel like you shouldn't be doing it. So a good example is how I feel about doing the podcast. It's a brand new thing for me, and I might get imposter syndrome and think I shouldn't be doing it. You know, who am I to do it? Or, you know, anything like that. So you can apply this to anything. You might have just graduated and gone into a job which uses your skills and then be like, oh, well, I don't belong here because I've never done it before. That last comment is kind of what I want to tap into. I feel that when we talk about imposter syndrome, it's actually because we are doing something that is out of our comfort zone. Now, I don't know if you've noticed in the last handful of years, but there is more and more things about, and they are being labelled. So this one I'm talking about today, imposter syndrome. Do you know what? I don't know if I'd ever heard about it over 10 years ago. I feel like it's not a new thing, but it's a new diagnosis or a label, if you will. So I just want to tap into the label thing and how they can make us feel worse than we already are. So, for example, I'm going to use the term ADHD disorder. Oh, sounds like you've got something really wrong with you if you've got ADHD. Well, actually, no. I believe that the label disorder, oh God, I think that's horrendous. It makes you feel like there's something wrong with you. So imposter syndrome, it's a syndrome. Oh, again, very negative on the words. They don't need to be. For example, if you've got ADHD, it's just you are wired your way, and that's all there is to it. I don't believe that things like normal exist, okay? You're talking to one of those people now. I don't believe in normal. I also don't believe in disorders. I believe you are you. You are wired your way, and I feel like that is relevant. The labeling, I feel, can have quite a strong impact on how we feel about it or how others perceive it, and I don't like that part, okay? So this whole imposter syndrome, now, like years ago, I'd never heard of this, so I feel like it is literally because you are being taken out of your comfort zone. Now, that is what I would deem it to be. And to be honest, when we feel a little bit uncomfortable like that, that is when the magic happens in life. If we just stick doing the same thing over and over and over again, then where's the magic? You've got to have things in your life that push you a little bit. And it doesn't mean you've got to get a new job every 5 minutes. It doesn't mean that. But you've got to feel that buzz in life. And it doesn't matter what it is or what gives that to you. But there's got to be something for you. If you're just doing the same thing day in, day out, and you're not motivated by your job or anything, then, or whatever, or your hobbies, then, you do need that buzz. But unfortunately, when you get that, it makes you feel uncomfortable. Therefore, we go back to what's comfortable. And sometimes you start a new thing, but you never like carry on with it. I mean, I have people like this, they start pole and they're all like, yeah. Then all of a sudden they just stop. And you think, oh my God, what happened there? You know, and it became too difficult, or they didn't want to try anymore, or they felt like they should be better by now, and all this should, and oh God, no. But yeah, so, you know, people just don't see things through in the same way, because as soon as you get a little bit uncomfy, you run back to what was familiar. And I'm sure we know about this when you go back to an ex thinking, yeah, it'd be okay, it'd be different. And it isn't. But you go back to them because it feels familiar and it's survival. You know, when you tap into the primal aspect of it, it's survival. So that's why you're doing it, is to keep you safe. And also, when you're pushing out of your comfort zone, your ego gets involved. Yeah. So your ego would tell you things like, you know, you're not good enough, or you should be better at this by now. You know, so you've got to be careful to stay out of your own head, because our heads like to do crazy, crazy things. So I like to try and take myself out of my comfort zone quite often. And I'm talking about little things. So a good one is, if you always sit in the same place to eat your food, sit at the other end of the table, use a different chair. Even if you have the same plate every time, use a different plate. All these little things are routine and habit. If you can try and change those every now and again, just change it up. I mean, I've even sat on my stairs eating my dinner before, because it really just felt weird and I wanted to experience the weirdness. Because in life, the one thing that you can guarantee is going to happen is change. You can't stop it. Change is a constant in our life. So if we can learn to embrace change through making these little teeny tiny changes, maybe you always park in the same space. When you go shopping or something, park in a different space, park in a different part of the car park. These little changes are what makes having to deal with change so much easier. I mean, I've got 7 poles in the studio, and everybody used to gravitate towards their favourite pole every week. And then I was like, it's not fair to someone else who wants to use a mirror or not use a mirror. So I changed it. And then that meant I numbered all the poles, and everybody has to use a different pole every week. So I tell them which number they're on, because I know which number they're on last week. Now, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like that. Don't like that. I'm over the other side of the room. It feels all weird. But it did get easier. But it also meant that if they were to ever do a show or performance or anything like that, they're used to dancing in a different area, because we had made that one little change. And I'm not saying that was an easy change for me to, like, I was up against it. People were like, I don't want to move. And I'm like, but you're going to move. It's okay. You're fine. You're safe. So these little changes take us out of our comfort zone, but they can have a knock-on effect with helping us deal with change. Now, not all change is easy to deal with, and I get that, okay? So I know there's going to be some change in our lives that are heartbreaking and horrible, but even doing all these little things will help you. They will help you, yeah? Because not everything will feel different, just that area will feel different. And that is very, very helpful. Trust me, I promise, it's very, very helpful. And it's interesting. I find it very interesting when people say, it's a right Kevin out of Kevin and Perry Go Large. If you know that, if you're in my era, you'll know what I mean. When people say, life isn't fair. Life isn't fair. I don't know whenever it was meant to be fair. We're not here to live a fair life. I mean, we're here as a gift. To make it fair, I mean, you can't go through life and it will be fair. It just doesn't exist. When you look at nature, I mean, nature can be beautiful, but nature can be brutal. The storms, you think an animal's all cute and then it eats another animal that you thought was cuter than that, and you're like, oh, nature's disgusting sometimes. But nature just is, which is the same way that we lead through our life. It just is. So we need to get out of the pattern of thinking life isn't fair. We have to accept change is inevitable. As soon as you can do that, you will feel freedom, because to surrender to it, to know that change is going to happen, is very freeing, because you stop trying to control everything that you possibly can. And the more you can take yourself out of your comfort zone with little teeny tiny things, the more it will help drive you with your confidence to start something new. And to know that if you start something new and you feel funny, you don't need to label it like imposter syndrome. You can actually just embrace the fact that you feel weird. This is weird, but I'm doing it anyway. Yeah? And that's all you have to do. It's just got to try and do some of these steps. So if you ever feel yourself feeling a little bit weird, think about your comfort zone. Think about other things that you can do to take yourself out of your comfort zone, and see if that helps build your confidence up, because your confidence is allowed to build. It doesn't just magically arrive. It doesn't arrive in the post. It doesn't just arrive like that. You build it, and you build it, and you build it, and you build it, and you just keep going. Well, I hope that has helped you today. I hope you've managed to take some juicy little bits from it, and remember to lead through your life with your heart and to live with intention. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you enjoyed this episode, please do share it with your friends and on social media. If you have the time to rate or review this podcast, I'd be ever so grateful. If you'd like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Jolene Sensual Being. The links to my YouTube and to sign up to my mailing list will be in the show notes as well. I look forward to speaking with you again very soon.